Our lesson this morning, if you want to turn your psalm book over to 940, you'll be singing 940 in a few minutes. Have a couple of songs we're going to sing during our lesson, and to go along so well as far as our lesson is concerned. The first one's 940. The title of our lesson today, Jesus Christ, the Great Physician. The Great Physician. Think about the things that Jesus did during His ministry. So many things that He did, that He taught, places He went, people He associated with, occasions, things that happened with Him. Of course, among these things that He did were signs and wonders. Signs means miracles. When we talk about signs are miracles. People don't do miracles today. Oh, people claim to be doing miracles today, but miracles not done today like they were in the first century. Jesus did miracles, the apostles did miracles, people they laid hands on could do miracles, but then after that, the miracles ceased, according to 1 Corinthians 13th chapter. When we think about the miracles, though, we realize that we don't need miracles today. We don't need signs today, because we've got Jesus' miracles. But when we look at His miracles, the things He did, He teaches us these miracles. So these miracles become our miracles, the things that happen with these people. John chapter 20, verse 30 and 31 says, "Truly did Jesus many other signs in presence of His disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written that ye may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in His name." Jesus did many other things besides the things that are recorded in the Bible here, John is saying. You've got to wonder how many other things He did, what those things amount to. But these things are written in John so that we can believe. So the miracles improve our faith and help us to have faith. We can't really have faith without studying the miracles and things Jesus did. Of course, the reason a miracle was done is to affirm the truth. Jesus would teach, do a miracle, teach, do miracles. So He was affirming the truth when He did miracles. So when we look at these miracles today, we realize they were not only for those people, they were for us, so we can know this really is the truth. This particular miracle is a desperate thing that happens. I don't know of any other miracle that a more desperate situation takes place than this one right here. This lady that comes to Jesus is financially bad shape. Doesn't have anything financially. She doesn't have anything physically. Physically, she's completely worn out. As we go into the study, you'll understand about that. Not only that, mentally, she's worn out. She's done everything she knows to do. You ever been worn out mentally? Which is worn down, thinking, I've done everything I know to do. That's where this woman is at. Spiritually, she's been rejected. She's declared unclean by the law. So spiritually, she's worn out. And also socially, she's worn out. No one can have anything to do with her. I deal with a lot of desperate people. I've dealt with a lot of desperate people through time, and you probably have too. But I don't know anybody more desperate. I've never dealt with anyone more desperate than this woman right here. She's at rock bottom, people. I mean, in every way. And notice what she does. The things we do is because of desire. Because of desire. I've also entitled this lesson, "The Power of Desire." I think this is one of the most underestimated things that there is, as far as the Bible is concerned, is our desire. The power of our desires. Just don't underestimate your desires. When you have desire, things can happen that couldn't happen otherwise. A weak woman had spent her living on doctors. Sin had rendered her unclean by the law. She'd been unclean by the law. Leviticus 15, verse 25. But in Mark 5, verse 26, says, she grew worse and worse, losing her lifeblood. She grew worse and worse. Even as we speak, as we're going through this lesson right here, this woman's becoming weaker by the minute because she's losing her lifeblood. Now, lots of things can happen to us physically, but once we lose our lifeblood, we're not capable of anything. Everything stops as far as our system is concerned. This woman had lost in all these ways. All these things happened to her. Now she's getting worse and worse. This is the end. She's at the end of her life as far as it's concerned. Away from Jesus, your first blank, if you fill out the sheet, is away. Away from Jesus, we grow worse and worse. We can't get better when we're away from Jesus. This woman's life is getting worse and worse because of the loss of her life's blood. She only had to touch Jesus' garment. She only had to touch his garment. Wondrous things happen when we come in contact with Jesus. Wondrous things. Now, as Christians, we need to go back to times, just like we're doing this morning, and kind of relook at it, rethink about it, ponder it, coming in touch with Jesus, understanding about Jesus. So easy to take it for granted. Think, oh, everybody's doing that. No, they're not. No, they're not. All Christians are doing it. No, not all Christians are doing it. Very few people, very few, comparatively speaking, are really coming in contact with Jesus on a daily basis. But great things happen. Her healing came from her faith. Next blank there's faith in Jesus. Her healing came from her faith in Jesus. Do you have faith this morning? What's your faith like? What is your faith in? This woman's healing came from her faith in Jesus. Today some are just a step away from Jesus. Some people are just a step away, so close, but not there yet, as far as Jesus is concerned. Where are we at? This woman heard, next blank there's heard, Jesus. She had heard about Jesus. The word is going around about these miracles. These things are not just the miracles, the teachings. He's different. He's altogether different. She's learning about him through other people. She's listening to him herself. She's going, what is this really? You see, faith comes by hearing. She's heard about Jesus. Jesus had a positive influence on this woman's life. You know, the wonderful thing about Jesus, you can't really share Jesus with somebody else that it doesn't have a positive influence on their life. I've had so many wonderful experiences getting to share Jesus with people who didn't know Jesus. And they get to watch the experience that they had in their lives because they learned about Jesus. In Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2, it says, looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. Looking unto Jesus. Are you looking unto Jesus, Christian? Are we really looking to Jesus? How often do we look to Jesus? Oh, I know about Jesus. I've heard tell stories about him. I heard a Bible class. No. Are we on a daily basis looking on Jesus? Pondering, meditating, studying, understanding, appreciating Jesus. As we study, as we learn about Jesus, life becomes different, you see. It's amazing what happens. She craved Jesus in her life. Now, what makes this woman so special is she's craving Jesus. She wants Jesus worse than anything she's ever had in her life. Think about the things you wanted, relationships you wanted, situations you wanted, food you wanted, things you wanted to do. Doesn't come close to how this woman was craving Jesus at this time. Now, a lot of people miss this. I missed it for many years. I didn't understand. Teachers didn't impress it upon me somehow, or I didn't get it in the Word. How important it is that we crave Him. You know what it means to crave something. You can't hardly get it off your mind. You just sit there and you think about, I just want to do it. I just want to be it. I just want to experience it. No, but when we crave Jesus, we go, wait a minute. I want to learn. I want to understand. I want to appreciate Jesus and things He can do. Her core desire, you next think there's core. Her core desire was Jesus. Down deep inside of her, she just wanted Jesus. She wanted to be with Jesus. She wanted to learn about Jesus. She wanted to experience Jesus. What's your core desire today? What is it you want the very most as far as your life's concerned? Everyone has a core desire. Now, a lot of times we've neglected or we haven't identified our core desire. We don't know how to identify other people's core. I help people all the time identify their core desires. What is it you really want? Deep down inside, what do you want? What is your core desire? This woman's core desire was Jesus. I just want to learn about and understand and appreciate Jesus. The one thing she wanted more than anything else in her life was Jesus. Now, this is the only way it ever works for you. If you want Jesus, you got to want it more than you want anything else in your life. If you want Jesus, you got to want Him more than you want entertainment, any other relationship, more than you want food, more than you want clothing, more than you want shelter. You got to want it more than you want anything. Now, it's hard for some of us to imagine wanting Jesus that much. But God says you don't get it till you want it bad enough. How bad do you want it? Well, the way we act and the way we treat people and the way we do things shows how bad we want it, see. Are we willing to want it enough to give up everything to get the pearl of great price, to get Jesus? This woman wanted Jesus that bad. Luke 18:18 talks about the rich young ruler. And this young man came to Jesus. We're not going to go through his story this morning, but in Luke 18:18, he says, what does it mean to be in the kingdom? What can I do? Jesus says, keep the commandments. And he named the commandments. And he says, I've done that since I was a child. What else do I lack? Jesus said, do you lack one more other thing? There's always one more thing. You lack one more thing. Take your goods and sell them. Get rid of everything. Give them to the poor and come and follow me. The Bible says he walked away sorrowful because he was very wealthy. Now, you get that scene. He asked Jesus, what do I need to do to get the kingdom? Jesus says, just sell out. Get rid of everything. Jesus knew his God was not really God. His Lord was not really Jesus. His Lord was his stuff, you see. Just get rid of everything, give it to the poor, and come follow me. His countenance dropped. Can't do that. He walked away. Some people think he walked away because he's sad because he had to get rid of everything. That's not the reason he walked away. He walked away because he wouldn't get rid of everything. We don't know the rest of the story. People add to the story. We don't know what the rest of the story was. But we do know he went away sad. He didn't crave Jesus enough. If he really craved him like this woman we're talking about this morning, he'd have said, glad, what else do I need to do? I'll do that in a heartbeat. You see, a whole lot of being good at something and having something depends on how bad you want it. How bad you want it. You see, a lot of people don't want it bad enough. How bad do you want to live for Jesus? How bad do you want him to live the Christian life? See, how bad do we want it? This woman wanted it with everything she had. You know, the reason she's used an illustration. Matthew 5, verse 6 says, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are they that hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are they, happy are they that hunger and thirst for righteousness. He said, if you really want to be happy, deep down joy, hunger and thirst for food. No. Hunger and thirst for popularity. No. Hunger and thirst for money. No. Hunger and thirst for brilliance. No. Hunger and thirst for righteousness, he says. How bad do you want it? You want it bad enough? God says, if you do, I'll give it to you. If you don't, it won't happen for you. Mark 5:34, Jesus said, her faith saved her. Her faith saved her. See, in the end, your faith is what will save you. Your faith. Oh, that's not just believing God is real. That's not just believing in Jesus. Her faith saved her. But he goes ahead and defines his faith. What was his faith about? His faith was active. His faith acted upon what was right, doing the right thing for his turn. Where do you get such faith? Where does this faith come from? Romans 10:17 says faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God. This woman had heard the Word of God. By that, she got the faith that made it possible for her to be saved. Now we'll sing the song.
$940. 940. Hear the sweet voice of Jesus say, come unto me. I am the way. Hearken the loving call, obey. Come for he loves you So, hold on. I'm sorry. I forgot to say something. We're going to sing all verses first, then the chorus. My apologies. Casting your heavy burden down, come to the cross. The world may frown, yet you shall wear a glorious crown when He makes us His own. Open for you the pearly gate, loved ones for you. Now watch and wait, terrible thought to cry too late. Jesus, I come to thee. Only a step, only a step. Come for He bled for you and died. He the same loving Savior led Jesus the crucified.
The next song will be 147. 147, you'll turn to that song. This sick woman had enough faith to touch Jesus. Now think about this. We're talking about faith. This sick woman had enough faith to touch Jesus. Now we think about our faith. How much faith we got? How much faith? How would you qualify your faith? From 1 to 10. 10 being the most faith there is, 1 being hardly any faith at all. Where are you as far as your... This woman's faith was enough to touch Jesus. Mark 5, 27 and 28. When she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd, and she touched his garment. For she said, if only I could touch his clothes, I'll be made well. She came behind him in the crowd. She comes up behind him. You've heard the story many times. And she's thinking, before she does, if I can just touch him, I'll be made well. She could have said, what's the use? I've tried everything. What's the use? See, a lot of people are saying that today about religion. I've tried everything. Nothing has worked. Nothing's happened. You see? I don't know what's the sense in trying this anymore, is what she could think. But she says, no, wait a minute. I'm going to touch it. Don't you just love dedicated women? Willing to stay in there no matter what happens. I'm going to stay with this thing no matter what. I'm going to stick with it, not give up on it. Matthew 9:21 says, she reasoned with herself. She reasoned. Talk about this woman, Matthew. She reasoned with herself. Ever reason with yourself? Well, I could do this, or I could do that. What would really be the sensible, workable thing for me to do in this situation? What's going on? She's going over it. See, nobody becomes a Christian and obeys the gospel, doesn't reason with themselves. I could stay where I'm at, rock it along, keep on living life, doing things I'm doing, being lost. Or I could follow Jesus, be saved, but then I'd have to sacrifice. I'd have to repent. I'd have to follow His will, not my own will. You see, when we reason ourselves, we reason within ourselves. It's thinking things over. This woman, and what you got to love about this miracle is, she reasons in herself. Should I do it or not? Notice she thought about the positive things about what Jesus could do. Positive things He could do. If I follow Jesus, if I touch Jesus, there's a good possibility that I could be well, just like other people have been healed. Is this the thing to do or not? Now remember her mindset. She's lost everything. She has nothing left. She is rock bottom right now. Everything that she's done has failed. Everything doctors have done has failed. She's used up all of her money, her health, everything is done. She's still bleeding. She's still suffering. Everything she's done. Now she goes, this is my last deal. But if I touch him, he can make me well. You've got to admire her. You've got to appreciate her. You've got to appreciate her thinking and her reasoning with herself. Doctors prescribe for us today. Dr. Jesus, the great physician, prescribes the same thing for us today. He says you need to have faith in Jesus. When everything else has failed, what do you got to lose? Why not put your total faith in Jesus, trusting him totally and completely? Nothing else will work. A little bit of faith doesn't get it done. We've got to put all of our trust in him for it to be done. If we're reasoning within ourselves, your next blank is follow. We'll follow Jesus. When you reason within yourself, you really weigh this out, what you'll do is follow Jesus. I'm amazed at how often young people weigh it out and decide to follow Jesus. So how do you do this? It's the right thing to do. No, everybody else is not doing it. Some people even talk against it. But it's the thing for me to do. I'm amazed how often young people reason it out and older people don't reason it out. They go, no, not doing it. Hadn't done it before, not going to do it now. See? But when we reason with ourselves, we go, wait a minute. What is really the sensible thing to do? You know, what is really being affected here? This is my life. This is my soul we're talking about. This is not just relationships and other people, which that's part, but still, the thing is, we're talking about my soul. Let me ask you a penetrating question. What would you take for your soul? If I was buying souls today, what would you take for yours? You see? Most people go, oh, I wouldn't take anything for my soul. My soul would be lost. Well, you are taking something for your soul. If you're not following Jesus, you're taking whatever the devil has to offer for your soul. I just want a little more time. I just want to do what I want to do. I just want to act the way I want to act. I want to act out like everybody else does. You're selling your soul, you see. Everybody's selling their soul. I've sold my soul. You sold your soul. We either sell our soul to Jesus, take everything, or we sell it to Satan. He takes everything. Now, at this point right here, before she touches Jesus, she sold out. She sold everything. Now it's time to decide to put all my eggs in this basket right here and trusting Jesus totally and completely. She reasoned with herself. This woman acted on her faith. Now, this is what you've got to admire about her. She didn't just think about it. She didn't just ponder it. She acts on her faith. Did you know on a daily basis you're either acting on your faith or you're not? I'm either acting on my faith or not. Now, a lot of religions will tell you you're saved. Just have faith. No. The only saving faith is the faith we act upon. We do what God tells us to do. You see, we act upon His faith. She acted upon her faith. Someone once said, when all said and done, more, you next blank there's more is said than done. When all is said and done, more is said than done. You know, we talk a lot about a lot of things. At the end of the day, a lot more talking happens than action. See, God has said, don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. You've got to admire this woman here in Mark 5. She didn't just talk a talk. She walks the walk. She says, I'm going to do it, no matter what it takes, what it costs. Mark 5, verse 30 says, and Jesus immediately, knowing in himself that the power had gone out from him, turned around in the crowd and said, who touched my clothes? Who touched my clothes? Who touched you? He's walking along, got all the people around him, they're close to him, and he says, wait a minute. Who just touched my clothes? Jesus knew who touched his clothes. This is not for him, it's for them. Who touched me? It's not for them, it's for her. I know exactly what just happened. He felt the power. Just imagine that for a few moments. Power that left him. Went out of him into her. She was healed right that second. She turns, he turns, and you can look at him, look at her. I don't know how you see him, but I see him with an expression on his face like, a smile. Who touched me? She's caught. Dead sinner. Can't do one thing about it. She's cleansed. She's whole. She knows exactly what she's done. He's not rebuking her. He's not harsh with her. You touched me. Touch me. Now think about that just for a moment. Just touching him healed her. Can Jesus fix anything in your life? Can he fix anything in my life? Can he heal anything? There's not one thing that he can't heal or take care of, you see. Can he take care of financial things? Oh, no problem at all. Physical things? No problem at all. Mental things? No problem at all, you see. He says, just touch me. You touch me. You depend on me. And he's not saying for a miracle. He's saying because God provides. Even though we don't have miracles, we've got God's providential care. He provides for us. He says, I'll take care of you. You probably don't even realize how much in your life today God is providing for you that you're not doing. He's taking care of. He's protecting you. He's taking care of you. He's providing for you. He loves you. But we just touch him. Now, why did he say this woman? I think there's 3 reasons he said this woman. Number 1, it's for other people's sake. Now, we didn't get this part earlier because Jairus is with him, and Jairus is the ruler of the synagogue, and it tells about this earlier in Mark 5. Jairus has got a daughter that's dying, and Jesus is on the way with this crowd of people, this throng of people, going to Jairus' house to heal his daughter, to raise her. Jairus is in the crowd as he goes along, but also this woman is in the crowd. So they're on the way to Jairus' house. Can you imagine how Jairus must have felt when the woman touches Jesus? She's healed right there on the spot. He can heal my daughter. He can take care of her, you see. So he does it for Jairus. He does it for the woman's good, for her good. The woman needed to acknowledge the gift received. You ever given something to somebody and they didn't thank you for it? Or they didn't even acknowledge it, that they got it, you see? She needed to acknowledge that. We need to acknowledge when God blesses us and provides for us. We need to thank him for our blessings and the things he does. She needed to confess. Your next blank there is confess. Confession is important. She needed to say with her own mouth, you're the one that's healed me. I didn't just finally get well. I touched you and you healed me. Say it with your mouth, you see. The Bible tells us in Matthew 10, 32 and 33, therefore, whoever confesses me before men, him will I also confess my Father which is in heaven. And whoever denies me before men, I'll deny him before my Father which is in heaven. See, when you confess, when you go, Jesus is the one who did this. I didn't make my life what it is today. I can't take credit for my life, what it is today. All Christians can say that. God did. He does it. He does the impossible, you see. He's changing you. He's changing me as I speak. He's changing us. He makes the impossible possible. But we need to confess it. It's not us. It's him. No one can just walk away. The third thing is, besides others and Jairus and herself and others, but nobody can just walk away after receiving good from God. Jesus is saying, don't just receive it and just walk away. Act like it didn't happen. How many times do we do that? God provides for us food, clothing, shelter by the day, protects us, all kinds of things he does. We just walk away. Thank him for it. Appreciate it. Count it. Give him credit for it. Aren't we kind of arrogant by acting like we're the one providing it all? And God says, let's see you do it on your own. Let's see you do it without. I'm even taking care of other people. Not even counting all the Christians I'm taking care of. But don't just walk away as far as life is concerned. Now we'll sing 147.
We'll sing all 4 verses and then the chorus. I stand amazed in the presence presence of Jesus the Nazarene. I wonder how he could love me, a sinner condemned unclean. For me it was in the garden, he prayed, not my will but thine. He had no tears for his own griefs, but sweat drops of blood for mine. He took my sins and my sorrows, he made them his very own. He bore the burden to Calvary and suffered and died alone. And with the ransomed in glory, his face I at last shall see. Will be my joy through the ages to sing of his love for me. How marvelous, how wonderful, and my song shall ever be. How marvelous, how wonderful is my Savior's love for me.
Notice, all she's done has failed, but God is there. God is there. Everything she's done up to this point has failed her, but God is there. He's taking care of things. Your blank there is God is there. There. You try everything. We try everything. Many of you are trying everything now. Everything in your power to pull this off. To get a life, to have a life, to experience things, to do things, to get entertainment. We try all kinds of things. Just shortly, temporarily, some of these things work. Just enough for the devil to fool us into thinking we're getting it done. No. It all begins with powerlessness and unmanageability. I can't run a life. I can't control what's going on, but God can. She's tried everything, and it's all failed. We try everything. Mark 5:26 says, immediately the fount of her blood was dried up. She felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. After she touches Jesus, the fount of her blood was dried up. It stopped. Not later, not after a while, not little by little. It stopped immediately, just as she touched Jesus. See, what God does, He doesn't halfway do. He knows exactly what needs to be done, and He does it perfectly. Have you ever bled? You ever had a bleeding? Some kind of bleeding that wouldn't stop? Kathy and I got married. I had a bad problem with my nose. I was a welder, and I got what they call a welder's nose. Got twice as many vessels in my nose as a normal person has. And they got inflamed, and I bled, and I bled, and I bled. I'd wake up in the night bleeding on my pillow. I'd bleed welding. I'd bleed while I was eating. I'd bleed. Just bled and bled and bled. Finally, one day, she said, I don't know what you're going to do. I said, well, I got to go to the doctor. Got to get to the doctor. Then I found out what the doctor's going to do, and I didn't want to stick some hot thing up there and sear in my nose. And I thought, well, what else can I do? So I bled, bled, and I bled. Finally, one day, she said, you might try something they try up in the mountains. She's from the Smoky Mountains up there where the hillbillies are at. They got all kinds of things they do. And I said, well, what do they do? She said, they got a verse in the Bible they read when they bleed. Ezekiel 16:6. When they read that verse, it stops bleeding. You're kidding me. Well, I'm in there in the sink, and it's just dripping, 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 dripping. I said, read it to me. She said, I got to read it 3 times. She read it 3 times. When she finished the 3rd time, it stopped. I said, what in the world? Oh, that can't be real. Every time I bled after that, she read Ezekiel 16:6. Stopped. Well, I could kind of identify with this woman. I don't know if that'll work for you. I've had a lot of other people it did work for. But think about it. She stopped bleeding. What a wonderful thing it is when you think you're bleeding to death. And you go, no, wait a minute. It stopped. It stopped immediately, right then. We tried everything. Where do you go to get help? For money matters, we go to a banker, see about money things. Problems with the law, we go to lawyers. When a body gets sick, we go to a doctor. When we need our watch fixed, we go to a jeweler. Ray Dameron does that. When it's our souls, we go spiritual things. We go to God. God says, this is the most spiritual thing, most important thing. What about your soul? A banker has insurance. A banker's insured. A lawyer has a law degree. A doctor passes a medical exam. A jeweler is well trained. The great physician heals souls. Heals souls. Have you forgot that? The great physician heals souls. Everybody you come in contact with, I come in contact on a daily basis. He knows exactly what to do to heal their soul. See, he's got the medicine. For us, he's got the medicine. He says, I want to heal you, and I want to heal you now. Don't settle for less than the best. Go to God for the things about spiritual things. Jesus is using this woman to teach us a lesson, to teach us something. God uses each of us. He's using you every day if you're a Christian. He uses every day to teach other people about things. Your word there is teach, each. We're very valuable to Him. Your word there is valuable. You're valuable to Him. Have you forgotten about how valuable you are to God? God values you, your life, your influence, the impact you have on other people, the things you do every day. Mark 5:34, notice what Jesus says. And He said to her, go in peace and be healed of your affliction. He said, go in peace. Ends this up with, after she's healed, she acknowledges it. He said, go in peace and be healed. Luke 8 says, be of good comfort. Be of good comfort. Are you at peace? Are you at peace this morning? Are you comforted this morning? Does God give you the comfort and you go out have nothing whatsoever? If the Lord comes in 5 minutes, everything is fine. Or everything is stayed just exactly the way it is. Nothing has to get better. Nothing has to get worse. Everything can be just like it. Are you comforted, really, in your life? Or are you discontent, unhappy, and can't get satisfied with things? God says, I want you to be comforted. In closing, 2 Peter 3:9, the Lord is not slack concerning His promises, as some men count slackness, but is long-suffering toward us, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. That's God's desire. That's God's desire. God says, I want everybody to be saved. I want everybody to come to repentance. Are you willing to change? Change. What are you willing to change? Are we willing to change everything? Stop doing it our way, stop doing it the world's way, and doing it God's way. What's your desire? Next month there's your. What's your desire? What's your core desire for your life, for eternity? Every time I share something with you, I try to share the thing I feel like is the most important. If this is the last lesson I ever get to give you, so be it. Where are you with life? Is it okay? Can He come in 5 minutes and be okay? If not, why not? What needs to change? Will you touch Jesus this morning? Not physically touch Him, spiritually touch Him. Come in contact with Him. Let Him heal you. Things are going on as far as your life's concerned. Or are you just going to continue to hang on to things that it's your way or the world's way? Are you willing to come to Him this morning? If you have a need, won't you come as together we stand and as we sing?